hope everyone got up to a great start as we get ready to start this Academic Achievement Committee meeting. We want to start with public comment. Well, before public comment, Mrs. Evans, is there anything that you'd like to address us with before?
No, sir.
Okay. And we'll start with public comment. Mary, you want to come forward?
Oh, okay. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here on behalf of the Alger staff who could not be here for obvious reasons. So I'm going to try my best to speak to what they wanted me to talk about. The principal has implemented an academic program called IMM. It stands for the Instructional Minutes Model. Every teacher in the classroom is instructed to spend 12 to 15 minutes of each class period on reading, 8 to 10 minutes on gap close, 12 to 15 minutes on a mini lesson, 12 to 15 minutes on independent practice, and 3 to 5 minutes on a formative assessment. All teachers are expected to do this. The intent, I believe, is to require reading every day in every class. Teachers were given a rubric with rankings similar to the evaluation tool that the district uses, with the minimally effective up to the highly effective. But the concern is that the building has many new, young, and substitute teachers, and they're kind of confused about what they should be doing in their classroom. Should they be following the district curriculum and the pacing guides that they're given as teachers, or should they be following the directive of the principal? They're also concerned about how they will be evaluated and on which directive. A lot of times teachers are evaluated on their ability to teach the subject that they were hired to teach, and they've got the Danielson rubric. Now they have another rubric that's following a different instructional model. They're concerned that this change happened in February, so they've changed direction after second marking period or second semester had started. And they were also concerned about being observed from the very first day that they were supposed to implement this, and they didn't receive a lot of training and had multiple questions about what they were actually to be doing. And the reason I'm bringing it here is because all of this impacts the academic progress of the students at Alger. There is an ILT in the building, and they have raised many questions, but they don't feel that they've been addressed, so they're trying to understand what they're exactly supposed to do. And we know that teacher buy-in also, how much that affects student progress. So I think there's some disconnect between what the expectations are and what the teachers really understand. So I just wanted to bring that forward and hope that I expressed their concerns adequately. Okay.
Comments?
What was the name of it? What did you say they were calling that at Alger?
Instructional Minutes Model. IMM. Okay. Thank you.
Instructional Council update.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
You too.
Instructional Council did meet in February 19th, and we did meet at the Grand Rapids University. It was a shorter meeting than we typically have, but it was productive. Jonathan Harper, our science curriculum specialist, and Mike Postumus from Groundswell shared change, an update to resources in our 6th grade science curriculum. It was an ongoing project that GRPS has with Groundswell and other partners in developing a relationship and some science units where it's really project-based learning, where students will be doing stream studies at the 6th grade level. And they shared their work around that project and how that's going to be implemented over the course of the next year. Additionally, the council talked about and are looking at developing essentially a spreadsheet that will track courses that come to the council and that are recommended to the board, and courses that have been implemented in the district. There were no subcommittee updates, and 2 of the previously reviewed syllabi came to the council and were looked at again with some suggested edits that went back to those staff people that are developing those. Those will come back and will be implemented in the fall. We've talked about that earlier this year. And then the next council meeting is later this week on Thursday. All right.
Could you talk a little bit about the archives?
Yeah, simply, we have syllabus in the district, and they're oftentimes on the curriculum shared drive. But sometimes things come into the instructional council that actually, even though they're developed, they may not run as a class. But we still need to keep a record that it is a live or a viable course that has been created. So we just wanted to create a master document where we can track that a little more efficiently than we have in the past.
So when you track that, is that that for all the courses or just a particular number of courses that you're teaching?
That would just be for the courses that have come to the council, right? So it's work that the curriculum team and I talked about just this week again. Really, how can we just keep a running list of what has come to the council and then what has actually been implemented in the district, so that we have an ongoing record.
John, any questions?
I don't have any questions right now.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Report of the committees.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sir.
Everybody, I'm here to talk about today is giving everybody an attendance update around the first semester and parent engagement. Just to give you a preview, I'm going to show a PowerPoint though. And so I want to talk about, because today is the importance of parent engagement, how it plays around attendance. I'm going to give you some numbers comparing our first semester numbers compared to the end of last year and the first semester of the previous 2 years. And we're making progress. You know, there's momentum happening. There are some schools that are becoming, I think, models in reducing chronic absenteeism. And then I just want to highlight and give them recognition too. So just for a brief overview is we talk about really truancy. Truancy is meaning unexcused absences, 10 or more. We still track those really through our family support specialists, and that's still something we still do. But chronic absenteeism is our 3rd year looking at this, and that refers to if you're missed any school day for any reason, excused or unexcused, and missing 10% or more signals chronic absenteeism. And then some myths that we always try to articulate all the time is like sporadic versus consecutive days. Think about it, if you miss only 2 days per month, let's say the 3rd day and the last day of the month, that equals, 9 months of the school year, that equals 18 days absence. And as any teacher would tell you, the hardest thing to do is to catch kids up that are not there on a consistent basis and not there on time. That's a big one. Another myth is attendance only matters in older grades. So untrue. There's a lot of research done now correlating your attendance patterns at the elementary level, starting even in kindergarten, how it correlates to 3rd grade reading, how it correlates to 6th grade, and so on and so on from there. One thing we did, and we look at aversions, we took a look late last year. They talk about poor school climate. A lot of times, poor school climate correlates sometimes with suspensions. And then for our GRPS data, absence rates of suspended students rises twice the rate of the district average. So meaning, the kids that were suspended because it doesn't matter where you're gone, it raises twice the rate. And then this, on average, it correlated with a 3 additional days absence. And so this is why we're starting restorative practices. We're trying to find alternatives to suspensions, but that's a key one I think in reducing chronic absenteeism, is to reduce the number of suspensions. And so obviously, besides that, some of the benefits of improved attendance is, I'm not going to read all of them to you, but, on track for success. We know kind of the pipeline to prison data and things of that nature, that you can always track it early on with attendance and grades, and and we think about it more than just a number. We think about it, the kids gonna live in this community. This is our future, and it's important that we keep kids on track, especially at an early age. College readiness is a big one that we know. It definitely is a predictor of who's going to be college and career readiness, and then this in engagement. Are 3 I just want to hit. So when you look at this data, this is data by division for the first semester of this school year. Overall, we had 26.1% of our students were chronically absent. K-5 had 19.1, 6-8, 23.5, and 9-12 was the highest at 43.9. But I think you have to correlate it with something. And so looking at this number in isolation doesn't do it justice. So there's 2 ways to review this data. This first chart here reviews the first 12-13 is the end of the year compared to semester 1. So when you compare the end of the year to semester 1, what you see is last year we ended at 35.1% reduction, or 35.1% of our students were chronically absent. But when you look at this, we have a 25.6% reduction in chronic absenteeism when you compare end of the year to semester 1. Our goal right now, we think a realistic goal is 10%. And so we're well on our way to reaching that when you look at it from this way. What we also know, I've gotten a lot of questions before, is what about when you compare semester to semester? So when you compare it to semester, semester 1 for the last 2 years compared to semester 1, this present year, every grade besides 5th grade went down. We still had 11.8% reduction in chronic absenteeism. And so we are definitely going in the right directions. Some schools that are that I think I want to say publicly that are really doing a great job. For example, the school that reduced it the most so far when you compare semester to semester is Westwood. Westwood is one of them that had a 21.2% reduction in chronic absenteeism. And you talk to Dr. Garner and his staff, and it's a multitude of reasons. It's a community approach to this. The MLK is another one. Martin Luther King is a school that has significantly reduced chronic absenteeism. Riverside, Dickinson, Sibley. I can keep going on and on, but those were really the few that stood out of reducing their chronic absenteeism and contributing to the overall district numbers.
Mr. Atkins?
Yep.
Can I ask, what is it that the schools are doing to reduce the chronic absenteeism?
Yep, so I've asked a few schools that on this list, and what they say is a couple things. One, it's not new to them anymore, and so when we focused on it for the first time last year, is people were learning what's chronic absenteeism, what's the importance of it, and now they were getting buy-in. You're getting buy-in from your staff, you're getting buy-in from your parents, your students. The power of recognition is another one. And so what we say is recognize good and improve attendance. And so no one wants the phone call of just a negative, or just, if we don't have to be perfect attendance, but for the students that have gotten better, we recognize their parents, said thank you. Sometimes you give certificates, sometimes you do anything with the community. KSSN has helped at some of those schools tremendously. It's a continued effort with our, a lot of those have the wheel or attendance teams. And so you're constantly monitoring the progress of students on a consistent basis, sometimes weekly or biweekly. With that, all those play into This early personalized outreach is another one. So don't wait. If you notice someone hasn't missed a day in 3 weeks, now they missed 2 straight days, someone go find out what's going on. Is there anything we can do to help support that? With that, I mean, those are really the things that people have been telling me.
Now, if those chronic absenteeisms are unexcused or excused?
Good question. So chronic absenteeism deals with excused and unexcused. But I have looked at truancy. I didn't include this in the slide, but tell me if this makes sense. But over 60% of our kids that were chronically absent were also truant. So meaning the reasons why were unexcused reasons, if that makes sense. And so, we have we revised our policy it says 3, 6, 10. 3, you get a letter. 6, you get a home visit, and 10, you can go to the prosecuting attorney. Because that is still an account. We've had over I think 900 packets this first semester, like over 600 home visits this first semester, and so we're doing that in too. It is because some people will need that in. But so far, it is going down, but we still have a big percentage of our students that are truant. When you look at it by ethnicity, what sticks out to me, it's hard to see it on the light with the light a little bit, but in the last few years, it's been African American males. And it has been the highest, and this is the case this year, with being 36% of our African American males are chronically absent. You got to compare it against something. Are we making progress? That's the key. We're not going to change this overnight, but are we making progress? And when you compare that African American male number to the end of the year of last year, there's been also a 26.9% reduction in chronic absenteeism. For Hispanic males, there's been a 22.8% reduction in chronic absenteeism. So is the bar too high? Of course it is. Absolutely it is. But I think the power of recognition that something is moving in the right direction is important.
What are you hearing in terms of why they're absent? What's their reason for being absent?
It varies. Around the holidays, sometimes either people leave a little early or don't come back right away. Sometimes it's weather related. It's, and I don't have a top like 2 or 3 reasons, but all those suspensions is another one. It's all those add up. Really, what I would say.
Because with the Swiss data, does that correlate with some of that?
Yeah. So the Swiss data is
suspensions.
Yeah. So we're trying to work on the categories, bring light to the categories that you can control. The more the nebulous categories. Insubordination is one that comes to my mind. We know a fight's a fight, and usually you're going to get suspended with that. But the ones that we can control, that is their alternative to a suspension, is what we're trying to shed light on. And we shed it with data first, and then with interventions, with alternatives. Like we just did a literature review, for example, on alternatives to suspensions. We call it a real team meeting that works with one of our outside partners, and we're trying to solve this problem, especially on the southeast side.
So are expansions included as absenteeisms as well?
Correct. Yep.
And how large is the suspension?
Next slide, right here. So if you look at this, this is showing you on this first slide. If you look at it on the K-12, 9.9% of our students have 1 or more suspensions. So if you round it up to 10%. 1 or more suspensions. And then, but you have to compare it. I'm always trying to compare it to something. Last year, at the end of the year, it was 19.1% of our kids had 1 or more suspensions. So that's a decrease, but still, if you're talking about 10% of our kids had 1 or more suspensions, where it really plays out when you tie it to attendance, especially at the middle school level. If you can see this light bar right here, what this is showing you is 41% of our kids at the middle school level who've had one or more suspensions are chronically absent. It doesn't matter if the absence is 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, whatever it is. You can see the correlation. Then you compare it against that. This graph here shows you the kids that are chronically absent but have no suspensions. It's almost no graph. So you can easily see the correlation between, if you get suspended, you're pretty much going to be chronically absent, especially at the middle school level. And then the darker one is 2 or more suspensions. But if you're not suspended, you're pretty much not going to be chronically absent. This is why we have to control what we control. Now, if it's a fight, I don't have it's hard to argue that. But if it's the nebulous categories, that there is a decision, there is a choice to be made. This is where we're trying to drop anchor at.
You know, I think I just want to point out, I think there's obviously a correlation, but we may want to be careful in saying it's causal. I don't know if, I mean, I'm not saying it isn't, but I don't know if suspension is going to cause a chronic absence or just that those who are suspended.
I haven't done it on this one, but I've actually done the research the last 3 years. I worked with basis policy research to define that it is. I have another report that, just our data, that it shows that it's not the only reason, but it's a significant reason. When we talked about suspensions on average, cause you to be chronic, adds 3 more days to your absences. And then when you go back to the definition of chronic absenteeism, it plays a role. You know, I've looked at it from, if you take out all the suspensions of all the kids, what would that rate be? You know, we've looked at it each way, because you have to look at it more in depth than just the basic numbers in order to devise a game plan, to figure out what it is. In some of some of the suspensions, I think are warranted, but I wouldn't say at this rate.
No, I agree with that too. And I don't even know if I would, and I'm not even saying that there isn't a causal aspect to it. I just don't know if it's that cut and dry. I don't know if that's simplistic. And maybe I'm just thinking about my own K-12 history of suspensions and absences, and anyway, but that's the whole personal story.
And another one we did, and I didn't bring it, is about teacher effectiveness ratings. How teachers' effectiveness ratings impact attendance. We've looked at a lot of different things to figure out what can we do. And really, and it's not for I got you. It's really to, do we support? Is it additional PD needed in this area? Is it cultural competency? Is it, what is it that we can do? And you just got to turn over every rock.
Do you have any examples?
So, say more. What example are you looking for?
The readiness piece for your teachers.
Yeah. And so, what it shows you, and this is obvious. It's kind of obvious to me, but you have to go through the process of actually looking at it. The teachers that are rated highly effective, the kids that are in their classroom actually attend more. Now, that's seems like it should be, but we actually looked at it compared to, and we looked at it. Really K-5, you really have one teacher for the most part, and then 6-12, you have more than one teacher. So we looked at it, how to what percent do you have to be exposed to highly effective teachers, because you have 6 teachers. Do you have to be exposed to 6 out of 6? Is it 5 out of 6? Is it 4 out of 6? How many teachers do you need, to make a difference? And I can't remember that number off the top of my head, but that's one example. And then we related to the instructional weeks. And so if you're exposed to an effective or highly effective teacher, how many instructional weeks does it add, to let's say reading and math?
What about parent perspective? So the chronically suspended or absent students, what are you seeing from the parent perspective? because obviously that kid is at home, and if that parent is working, what are you seeing from the parent's perspective in regards to suspensions?
A lot of times it can be, it's difficult. If you're saying, especially if a parent's working during the day when the kid's traditionally at school, it can be a challenge. Either they're off work or the children's at home. It could be or with another family member. It could be, but it causes a burden. But from a teacher view, we know that we have to look at, is it causing a disruption? Why? Because sometimes it's not the student's fault. You know, you have to look at each suspension a little bit deeper. What can we do as a system? And I can't stress enough why, like Natasha Neals is working with, she's piloting, I think, with 5 schools with restorative practices, is these alternative suspensions. It has to be a way that we keep our students in school, but without disrupting the class.
It seems that parents would be saying that, you know,
Yeah, for most
if
parents.
you're going to suspend, please have my child be in an alternative
Some schools have
setting
a room where students can go to and still receive instruction. I know, for example, I'm thinking of Alger for right now, that has a place to go that, so your instruction is not interrupted. You know, if you need sort of a timeout. And so we're looking at all measures to impact this. Just for the sake of time, and I've already hit on this a little bit when you talked about, when you asked me what are schools doing to reduce chronic absenteeism, about recognizing good and improved attendance, engaging students and parents, monitoring attendance data and practice, and the personalized outreach. What it means, really, when we look at it as a tiered model, is everyone's going to get the bottom, the blue, the recognized good and improved attendance, the monitor attendance, you know, the school climate. Then the tier 2, the early outreach, attendance mentor, develop a plan, all those things, like the wheel would go in there, all those things. And the intensive ones is a lot of times we have to go, sometimes the court matter. But this is how we look at tiering our approach to reducing chronic absenteeism.
Can you tell me more, attendance mentor?
So attendance mentor is like a buddy, or it's someone that's advocating, who is watching out for, if they use my child, Raina. You know, so someone has to explicitly say, you're on my caseload. And sometimes it's like 10 to 20 people on a caseload, and you're checking in. It can be simple as, good morning, how are you doing today?
And who might these people be?
So on our wheel, you have, sometimes it's a security officer, it could be a counselor, it could be a principal, it could be a teacher, it could be anyone in the building. And then what we also know, this is a community approach. So community approach is, one thing we do is, one is capacity building is one I'll start with. Is for the community, like Pastor Moody, you know that sometimes we talk to the local churches, local pastors, to say, what role do you play? We constantly, we talk to Carol Payne McGovern at KSSN. We talk to Link. We talk to Believe to Become. We talk to a lot of partners to say, let's share the same message. This is one message. It's not Grand Rapids Public Schools exclusively. It's the city of Grand Rapids. We all benefit. And the shared accountability is another one. We all have to, you can't just say, oh, this is just Grand Rapids. No, in Grand Rapids Public Schools, we all have to have skin in the game. Is one thing that we try to do. So for shifting to kind of now what we do for parent engagement, especially around attendance, I'm kind of keep that the same structure, is we have these, our mission under Parent Engagement Office is family, schools, and communities partnering together for children's success. And we start with the Parent Engagement Office. Right here, I oversee the Parent Engagement Office, and Emmanuel Armstrong leads the day-to-day structure of that. And then if you look at this one, then we have PALS. PALs are parent action leaders, and it's been a well-established, I think, parent group for at least a decade or more, I would say. And a lot of our schools have really a parent lead that's really gets training, to bring back to their staff. We get input from our PAL leaders about, kind of what's best about the school. Parent-teacher community councils, sorry for skipping the order, but parent-teacher community councils is really your subcommittee at your building to say, let's talk about attendance, let's talk about parent engagement, let's talk about, this is a structure to do it. And then Parent University, we know is our second year in existence, but also offers classes, workshops, modules around 4 bucket areas. But we're talking about attendance right now, so attendance is one of them. It's in one of them. Then obviously your principals play a key role in delivering these messages. So the Parent Engagement Office really has 3 big strategies. Mobilizing key stakeholders. The key stakeholders are, the parents, community, principals, the key messages, and I'll talk about key messages in a minute, and then distribution channels. How do we get the message out? So when you look at the change agents, are I said parents, schools, community partners, and districts. Our goals under the Parent Engagement Office really correlate with our district goals. So one was decreasing chronic absenteeism by 10%. And remember, right now, if you compare end of year to this year, we reduced it by 25.6%. And then if you look at it from semester to semester, we reduced it by 11.8%. So we're right on target with our goal. Increase parent engagement, support student success. And then our goals, and which is important, we went publicly about our student recruitment and retention. It's important that every structure, we had our best 2 count days and forever, since at least, I don't know how long it goes back to, but part of it, I'm not gonna say this is the only reason, but part of it is every division, including, or every department, even parent engagement, has a goal to reduce, make sure our kids are coming every day, we're retaining our students, and so that's a big one. But the parent engagement content, the key messages, for example, BGRAD, that stands for believe in yourself, go to school, read at home, ask for help, and do your homework. And so that's like just an acronym that is taught that a lot of our classes. Parent University, and then now we're getting to social media. So social media, the district has a social media presence. The Parent Engagement Office just created a Facebook page, and we're doing Twitter. We're trying to do, and plus we have our newly revised website at parents.grps.org. We try to do all these things in here.
Mr. Atkins.
Yep.
In mentioning Parent University, you said that you had to do a better job with promoting Parent University. So the numbers going up for more parent participation, or numbers going down?
So if you look,
and then my next question to that too is, what are those parents doing in Parent University to engage parents who are not involved in Parent University? What are they doing? Third question.
Yep.
What are they doing in the prospective schools that their children attend?
Okay, so what I'm showing here is where you can access Parent University at parents.grps.org. And since we launched this revised site in October of this year, we've had just over 21,000 views. The average is 150 per day. We've had over this fall semester, we had over 110 offerings of Parent University courses. And then we have over 750 parents registered with accounts on this site, because you can register on here. We saw this fall over 4,700 offerings. And remember, parents or community members going through this. And that number doesn't mean 4,700 different people, but what it does mean is that sometimes it's you did one course, sometimes you did 10, sometimes you did, I don't have the one-to-one correlation. But if you compare it to last year last year for the total year, we had over 2,500 classes completed. This first semester alone, we had over 4,700. So we've almost doubled. We've almost doubled it in half a year of our offerings. And the classes under like navigating the educational system was the most popular. Some classes, some classes under that would be the importance of attendance. Is one of them, for example. Another one under the bucket area is effective parenting. Is another one of giving parents strategies of different courses. So those are, so if you go to courses, just for the online, you can see the BGRAD, kind of the acronym just named, baby scholars, attendance, creating a pipeline to college, Khan Academy. There's a lot of different courses that you will see under Parent University with that. Whoa. Let me go back. Then the last little bit I want to talk about, just real quick, is help reduce chronic absenteeism is our I think our system-wide Challenge 5 goal. Challenge 5 really stands for strive for less than 5 days absence. And it just signals the importance of going to school, reducing chronic absenteeism. This is why we have these leaderboards. You see these yard signs. Schools were able to get these encouragement stickers, whatever it needed. We were hoping to get the message out about the importance of attendance. And then lastly, some of the key messages, again, our absences add up. Chronic absence is a problem we can solve with the whole community. It can't be just GRPS. It's the city of Grand Rapids. Each role, it could be a local store, a church, the community, our parents, our students. Everybody plays a role in reducing chronic absenteeism. Students and parents play a major role in it. That wraps up my presentation. Any other questions?
Well, one of the questions I have is that it seems like by now, especially with either suspensions or out of classroom time, that do you know what some of the either social issues, so it's not just fights, but really what is happening either with the student or the issues that the student is exhibiting that is causing continued either out of classroom time, the teacher has to maybe take them out of that classroom. It may not necessarily lead to a suspension, but it does lead to out of classroom time. And I'm just wondering if there's the ability to compile some of the overarching issues that students are facing that
there is.
Allow for some stuff.
Yep, good question. Like you referenced, like Swiss data. So Swiss data can break it down by any category. That shows you, is it this particular class? Is it this particular time? Is this hall? What is it? Is it a particular teacher? Is it a particular, is it on the bus? Wherever it happens, we can show you and to look for a pattern, to look for a correlation. But part of it is, and I want to leave with saying that sometimes it's not always the student. And I'm not sometimes, and it's not always the teacher, but it's the climate that we're working on to make sure it's the best learning environment at all times, everywhere in the building. And so we as a district are trying to do a much better job in making sure that the climate is for teaching and learning being the most important. And just suspensions is one that we think that it's not an easy one, but it's one that is worth attacking. Yes, it's going to reduce chronic absenteeism, but the more important thing are the kids going to be ready for life. I mean, that's more important than any number I can give you with that. we will continue to look, and, and then, once the end of the year comes, I'll come back with the end of the year report, and looking forward to, just kind of hopefully showing you more good numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Atkins, one last question. The school partners with a lot of different entities.
Correct.
There's a program that I'm aware of that I'm also involved in. It's called Project Lift. How is Project Lift assisting teachers and students? Because it also deals with absenteeisms and academics.
So Project Lift, just for everyone, just a quick reminder, it's at 3 of our schools. It's a pilot program. It's at Alger, Ottawa, and Union. And really what it entails is we work with Bleed to Become, and they partner with, I think, 5 community members, organizations, and they receive access to the student's grade book. And then they would text the parent or whatever mode they want. They say they want, and they talk about missing homework assignments or attendance or grades, and they're giving them information. So what we're trying to do now is, and this is a research-based strategy, what we're trying to do now is find out if there are other more efficient ways to arm the parent with knowledge around the student's grades, their attendance, and this one is a mode of text messages. It's something that sometimes a parent will not give us their cell phone number, but now we've had this we just started it this school year. We had over 1,100 parents at these 3 schools opt in, because you had to opt in. So that's telling you now, parents want information. Parents want to be partners. Parents want it. We'll give you the information we need if we're truly partners. And so a lot of it's early on, Pastor, with it. There's some early learnings that, you're always going to have some bumps in the road with it. But what we think, we haven't seen the final numbers yet because it's still going, but it seems like there is a correlation between the students that are participating in this versus students that are not participating in this, at least when you look at achievement. So we're going to keep monitoring it. We're going to let the pilot play out this year. And then, other schools have already asked, can they come in, can they adopt? We want to stay true to the pilot with that, but we're excited about Project Lift.
How's their participation with the teachers with Project Lift?
So far, so good. So what teachers have to do is update their grade book. And so this puts pressure on, because someone is monitoring it, that you keep your grade book updated. And if it's not updated, we always work with them, with administration, work with the teacher, anything we can to make sure parents can receive their information. Because it's powerful when someone else is looking at it and say, hey, I noticed the assignment is not here. Did they have this? That's a level of accountability. And teachers, for the most part, want feedback too. Want to communicate with parents. And so it's a win-win. If you can get a parent saying, "What can I do?" This child, I noticed this. You can't go wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
No problem.
So Mr. Atkins just gave us parent engagement and attendance report. So we want to do a priority schools update.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
Morning.
Would you like to wait a moment for Mr. Ross?
No, we can keep
Okay,
going.
no problem. So 4 times a year, the district's required to share with the school board an update around the progress that priority schools are making. You have in your possessions the copy of the quarterly report. This is the third one for this year, and so there will be one more. And as you can see, there's a lot more information this time around than there was in December, since we just closed out a MAP, Measures of Academic Progress window, and schools are involved in ongoing professional development. Every school is at a different place in their implementation, as you can obviously see. Some schools are making stronger progress in some places than others, but all are making those progress. So you have those, and did you have any questions? We do have a couple principals here this morning. Two were not able to make it, but Mrs. Manila is here, and Mrs. Evans, Mrs. Nan Evans is here.
Yeah.
If you had
when I read
questions.
this, I can see the progress is being made versus last year being on the Academic Achievement Committee, which is very good. But I would like to hear from some of the principals to talk a little bit about the progress that they're doing in the schools.
Sure. Come on up.
Good morning. I'm saying that because we need to support you and give you all the help you need to continue doing what you're doing.
Do you have specific questions, or?
No, I just wanted to just hear about what are you doing at your school?
We are continuing on our track. This is our fourth year of our implementation. So we started with quality questions, and then we moved into working on math. So in math, we've done formative assessments in our math fluency. Last year, we were supported by the Kent ISD with formative assessments, and this year we're also being supported by Kent ISD with number talks and our math fluency. So we've just kind of kept our vision very focused on what we implemented to begin with, and keep trying to improve that.
And then some of the partners that you have in your school that are really helping in some of the other areas, or to kind of implement some of those things, who are they?
As far as priority school,
Yeah.
so with some of our Title I set-aside monies, is that what you're talking about? Okay, so some of the supports that we have is, I have a math specialist in my building, who works with students and teachers. I have a data specialist who, comes on board. I have a school reform specialist who helps, guiding us in our reports, and making sure that we're staying on track, helping with data dialogue and learning walks. So those are the supports that come out of our Title I budgets.
And then more community support, like tutoring and
We
stuff?
have
Yeah.
a group of people from a church, a couple of churches that have come together and created a mentoring for upper grades. We have Experience Corps working with our K through 3. So I have 4 grandmas or grandpas in my building that are helping. So,
Wow.
and then we've created a couple other partnerships, like there's a retirement home on Kalamazoo that they've come in a couple times this year to do some things, so we have our 5th graders go to Beacon Hill to work with some of their residents there, so.
So you got, you say you're building coaches for math, or you have one coach for
Building
math?
coaches, it's not a coach, it's a specialist.
Mhm.
So she gets to work more with students than with teachers, but she also does help teachers.
How are your students doing in math?
They're doing much better. Yeah, their MAP scores this winter have all improved tremendously, actually. The numbers talk was a good thing to get into.
Do you have a lot of parent engagement?
I will say we have the same parents who engage frequently.
Okay.
Just typical, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Is your attendance improving also at your school?
It is. We have some chronic issues with some health issues that go on. When I was listening to Mr. Atkins, I was thinking, like, one of our big things is if the weather is miserable, we have horrible attendance. One because of how our parking and roads work around our building, and others because we do have a lot of parents that drop off their tremendously this year, and I have a fabulous attendance, family support specialist who helps, so we are improving overall from last year, for sure.
Good.
It's interesting to watch the numbers fluctuate.
Yes.
Yeah. But ours go right along with the graphs that he showed. I was like, yep, third, fourth, and fifth, they always win the monthly challenges.
Mm,
So,
very good.
Well, Kent Hills also has many of the same supports as Mulek Park, although we have a reading coach, and we have the Michigan Reading Corps in our building. So that's a program that we were provided free of charge the last 2 years, and it's we have highly trained tutors that pull identified students 20 minutes at a time every day, and we've seen tremendous growth in our lower elementary reading program, and I think that has been extremely helpful in bringing our students up to where they should be on grade level. We have the Schools of Hope with a lot of community partners that come in and work as tutors. We also have the Granny, what do they call it? Traveling grandpas and grandmas that come in and work in classrooms. I have 3 senior citizens that come in and help. We have a math teacher specialist, and she does not work as a coach. We have 3 split classrooms. She'll help with teaching one of the grade levels in those splits, and then she pulls students for interventions in math. She also helps provide workshops for teachers after school on, how to improve their math teaching, and so that's going really well. We're putting forth a lot of effort in trying to improve the culture and climate. We still have way too many playground issues, and so I have, over the summer, my teachers were trained in capturing kids' hearts, and we just got approval to purchase the book by Doug Fisher. It's about achieving a culture, or can't even remember the name now. It's a culture of achievement in climate and culture of achievement. So we are working on that because I think that our teachers we need to help our students connect with each other as much as connect with the teachers. So that's a big, we had quite a good discussion about that last night at our staff meeting, that these are very important concepts that we just can't ignore. So that is something that we're looking forward to doing more work on over the summer. I have investigated possibly restorative justice training for my staff. I think that would be an important training for them. So things like that, we're working on that. Because our reading has improved so well, I'd like to keep my reading coach because of the M-STEP coming up, where reading, comprehension, and writing are going to be a major focus on that test. But then I would like to also put a little more emphasis on math. We have made, in certain areas, some great gains in math, but we still have a ways to go. So I feel like we've turned a corner at Kent Hills because our teachers are talking about how it's the differentiation that they are providing that is really helping students. And I think if your teachers don't have that mindset, they're not going to do that. So at our last data dialogue, almost every teacher said that they thought it was the differentiation that made a difference in the data that we gained. So I'm pretty happy about that.
What are both of your PBIS acronyms, or your?
we're Cub Stars.
Okay.
And ours is SOAR,
Okay.
because we're the Rockin' Red Hawks.
Okay. I was wondering.
Attendance, I can tell you what we do for attendance. We have a celebration every month. Our classrooms with the very best attendance get a pizza party from the PTO. We have these little stuffed Red Hawks. I don't know where my pal found them, but we have a drawing So students who have perfect attendance might win a little stuffed red hawk. And we separate, we have a lower L emphasis and an upper L emphasis. Only one class gets the pizza party, but I have 2 Wii consoles, and then the winning classrooms for the attendance, they get to use that Wii for the month to have, you know, little classroom celebrations. So
Nice.
that seems to be a very popular one. So.
Need to come to that class.
Yeah. And then what about, parent engagement, reaction? How are your families feeling, your parents feeling overall in your schools?
Well, Kent Hills is unique in that half of the student body is bused in from, a couple miles away, and a lot of those parents, I think, struggle getting into the building just because of the distance, and maybe they don't have transportation. The ones in the neighborhood, we see them frequently. They walk their children to school, things like that. We just had a class. I put my teachers all through some specialized training for reading readiness skills. So we just had a class for parents. We had 3 parents attend. It wasn't real big, but they learned some very specialized things that they can do at home to help their children. So I'm hoping that that will grow, because we targeted K through 2, and so next month we'll have another class and hopefully get a few more teachers in. They were very excited about what they learned, and I think that, the word of mouth will spread a little bit. We had some people who signed up and didn't make it, and then others that just showed up. So it's a very nice training that we were able to provide. So we're kind of getting started in really trying to empower our parents to be more effective at home for their students that are struggling.
Thank you. Mr. Ross, any questions?
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's good to hear from the principals, from my opinion, to see what you're doing. Gives us a broad perspective, and to know that you're definitely engaged in the learning of your kids and working with your staff. I appreciate that. All right.
Thank you.
So, Mrs. Evans, are there any other priority schools we need to see? No. Okay. At this point in time, I'm going to ask my colleagues if they have any comments that they want to make at this point.
I think I want to reiterate that this is very helpful, and certainly, for the public, but for us to be able to engage with principals, for them to know that the board is interested in seeing the breadth of impact that our schools have on our communities, and just, what the administration is doing to be able to equip their teachers and give them the resources. We want to make sure that you have the resources, and the community is behind them, in helping our schools achieve. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I want to make just a brief statement. Is it Mrs. Bowens? How do I pronounce your last name?
Bowens.
Bowens, Mrs. Bowens. I didn't mean to call you Mary, so please forgive me.
I'm okay with it. That's my name too.
No, I'm going to give you respect, Mrs. Bowens. In reference to the comment that you made earlier about Alger, I sit on that governance board in reference to those reading programs. There are some things being looked into in reference to that. I'm happy to hear that your teachers are concerned, and I'm glad that you brought it here today. So I think when working with Alger, we will be working with Alger and his principal to continue to support the teachers and the students, but more so looking at the fact that how do we improve reading. If there are some training that needs to be done, I'm sure that the staff is going to look into it to make sure that that happens. Okay. So with that, thank you this morning. We appreciate you. Ms. Evans, any last comments you'd like to make? Okay. I do want to ask Mr. Atkins to do one thing for us, if you can. with Project Lift, we necessarily don't get the reports. If you can get us some data for what Project Lift is doing with the parents and teachers and the reports that they have, I would appreciate that. Because I necessarily as a partner don't get that, and if you can be of some help to this committee, I'd appreciate it.
Write it down now.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for coming out this morning. Thank you, Mr. Ross, Mr. Matias. We'll be there tonight.